my math's right, was 19 months ago, people. And we're back in this gym. Yeah. Well, okay. They can come on. February 2020, we had spring sport parent meeting in this gym. We have to have 2 of them with so many sports in the spring. So, you know, the Zoom meetings, all those things will certainly stick around. I know Tommy and I were on we serve on a state board together. We had a Zoom meeting this morning, and it saves time from us having to drive to Columbia. But as far as in person, that's the only way to go to discuss things and get ahead of things. And we appreciate you guys being here. I think if you came in this way, it's worth going by and looking at the pictures. When you go out the door, Frank Alexander brought me some pictures this week, and it's an aerial shot of our campus that was just taken 2 weeks ago. And it was actually, he was in the helicopter with the coroner flying to Belton, and they flew over and realized the weather was right, and he had his camera and took the pictures. And it's incredible to look at. I'm looking now for one. I want to find one from 8 years ago, because this isn't even the same place it was 8 years ago. And it's really cool to look at that, and it's certainly really nice to have been a part of that and see all the changes we've been able to make that are certainly going to benefit your student athletes. Tommy's going to come up in just a minute, but you know, Tommy Bell was hired to replace me. Unique opportunity. I was talking to Superintendent in Spartanburg County 2 Fridays ago at a ball game, and he said it's really cool what y'all are doing. The AD at Norman is retiring. He and I go way back. We've got our tea time set up for next year, but they hope to hire an AD there in January and have him come work with Flynn the rest of the year. But he said what you guys are doing is unbelievable. For Tommy to come in, learn how we do things, learn how our booster club operates, how we handle money here is radically different than it is in Greenville County with 16 high schools. And so that's been a great learning process for both of us. And I think the really cool thing for me, versus walking in here 8 years ago and Sheila Hilton handing me the keys and saying, hey, it's a mess, go fix it. And working it out, figuring it out, to be able to work with Tommy. When I got back in coaching in 1994, I'd been out of coaching for 8 years in the construction industry, and got back in it at Hillcrest High School. And there was this junior there who was a pretty good wrestler named Tommy Bell, who went on to win state championships and wrestle at the Citadel. So we've known each other a long time, serving on the state board together. He kind of pulled me to the side last year before we even announced what I was doing and said, hey, I'm interested if y'all are interested. I said, really? Yeah, we're interested. So from the day he told me he wanted this job, I was hoping that's what would work out, because I know what kind of guy he is. He's 42 years old, full of energy. I'm 61 and tired. Been an AD for 20 years, and Tommy's just got so much energy every day. All the social media stuff he's doing, he's going to touch on, just blows me away. And he programs all that stuff a day ahead of time, and the pictures and the graphics that he does of our athletes and coaches, and getting it out to the whole world. It's just unbelievable. So I appreciate already so much what he does. And I can tell you, we were going to kind of wait till the end of fall sports and let me step back. Folks, I stepped back 8 weeks ago. He's running the show, and he's making all the preparations with coaches for next year, and I'm here if he needs me. So he's doing a great job, and I look forward to having him speak to you here in just a moment. We're going to go over our training room procedures first. A lot of y'all will recognize Jordan Mitchell. We had Jeremy been dead here for a few years. Jordan had left us to go to Anderson University and was working and teaching there. And when Jeremy had to move back to Georgia for family reasons, we went after Jordan, and we love having him back. Just telling me today what a great job he did this fall. He and Shannon Hamilton. We actually have 3 trainers here on staff. 2 are supplemented by PlaySafe. And actually, Brianna Warren, who's been with us, 3 years? Yes. Just left us to go back to school and kind of change careers. So we're down 1 trainer right now. That's not going to hurt coverage for your athletes at all. It just means Jordan and Shannon are going to work more hours. But he's a great professional. He's great at what he does. He's a TL Atlanta grad, and we're glad to have him back home. Jordan Mitchell.
Y'all come on in. Y'all come on in. Y'all come on in.
Let them get seated, and then I'll try to make this as short and sweet for y'all as possible. Touch on a few things real quick. The main one being our hours that we're to have the training room open and what we offer for your student athletes. Some of the things we offer: rehab from injuries, injury evaluations, treatment beforehand. We want to look at preventing injuries, things along those lines. Just know that if anytime you have your son or daughters here at a practice, there's going to be an athletic trainer either up top here or down the field. Now, somewhere on campus there will be an athletic trainer. So if they ever get hurt, we always ask that you obviously let the coach know first and come check in with us. That way, if we need to have doctor's appointments, if we need to fill out an injury report for insurance reasons, we can do that. We have everything documented. As well as if your son or daughter's in the weightlifting class, we communicate with Coach Rochester and his staff to modify what they can do in the weight room. That way, no one's doing anything that should hurt them or keep them from getting better faster. The trainer down in the field house is going to be the one that we mainly use during the school day. So from 7:30 in the morning until the bell rings at 3:40, we're down there. If your son or daughter comes in, they want to do rehab, we ask that they do that before school because those are things that are going to take a little bit more time. We don't like them to miss working out if possible to do rehab, so we ask that they come beforehand. If for whatever reason they had an injury the day before a practice or a game, and they didn't check in with the trainer, or they woke up and something was worse than it was the day before, we also ask for those evaluations to be done before school. Obviously, if that can't be done, it is okay to come in during school, but we ask to try to come in before school if possible. Along the lines of injury reporting with us, if your son or daughter goes to a doctor for whatever reason, make sure to bring us a note. That way, we know that we're in line with doing what the doctors want to do, and we're not doing anything that we're not supposed to. That also being said, as soon as they go to a doctor, it's out of our hands. Whatever the doctor says is what we have to follow. If they say they're out for 2 weeks, they're out for 2 weeks, and there's nothing we can do about it, even if they wake up the next day and they feel like $1 million. As soon as they have that doctor's note, that is what it is at that point. Last thing I want to touch on is we do have a concussion policy here. Hopefully we never have to deal with that with anybody, but if we do have a concussion, state law requires us to have a return to play protocol in place. Once they're cleared by a doctor to begin that return to play, it's a 5-day progression from there, from light exercise and kind of stepping your way up to full return to play. If y'all have any questions, I'll be around after this. Feel free to stop by and ask. Other than that, that's all I have for y'all this evening.
All right, good evening, everyone. I've got a few things that I'd like to touch on as far as the athletic department. We'll give you a lot of information tonight. If you have a follow-up question, I'll be around at the end to address those, or if there's a long line or you've got somewhere else to be, please just send an email tomorrow morning. We're really quick, and I'm at Thomas Bell at Anderson5.net, where you can get an email to me fairly quickly to get an answer to your questions. Our first item is Planet HS. Now, all of you, because your children are doing sports, you've already gotten through to Planet HS. One reminder I wanted to do, if you end up having a problem with Planet HS, it's typically because mom and dad forget the email that they used to start the Planet HS account with, or the cell phone. And so when it comes time to do it again next year, mom and dad just get frustrated and create another system. And the reason I keep saying mom and dad is because every time I call the kids in to say, here's what's wrong with your account, they blame mom and dad. So if you will, please just remember, before you lock it out of your brain, a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, you did the Planet HS account. Just write it down or take a picture of it or a screenshot so that you remember. Because what happens is when you create a new account next year, I get a lot of kids who fill out their paperwork under the name Tommy Bell, and then here's the kids' approval, and then mom and dad fill it out underneath Tommy Bell, a second account, and it's in a different account. So we need those things to link up or else the forms don't get approved. So if you could just please remember that for next year. Our insurance here at TL Hanna, we offer a $50 insurance policy that will serve as a supplemental insurance to your primary coverage. If you're interested in that, we can get you the insurance information so that you can sign up. If you are concerned that you do not have an outside primary insurance, you can also purchase this account, this insurance policy, to serve as your primary. Now, once again, in dealing with your own insurance, primary doesn't mean 100% coverage, but obviously it will cover more than if you do not have insurance. So if you can add your insurance, if you'd like to add an insurance policy to your existing one, it'll serve as supplemental and help knock down the cost of those items if you get yourself into a situation where your student athlete has to go to the doctor or the emergency room or an orthopedic or so on and so forth. Our website is tlhannasports.com. If you'll go to the website, you'll get a lot of the information about the sports teams. Our coaches do a great job keeping the schedules updated. You'll be able to get information and tickets as well, which I'll touch on in a moment. We're also on social media. The in-game updates that we do are at @TLHanna_updates. And then most of our social media apps are at TL Hanna Sports, which you can find us on Instagram and as well on Facebook. So if you'll follow all of those, as Coach Cam mentioned, I'm pretty involved with our social media, and we'll get as much information out as possible. We'll also do interviews after games at all the different levels that I'm able to attend. Well, we do interviews when we do really well. If we don't do well, then we just kind of chalk it up, we put a score, and we move on to the next time. But we hope that we get a lot of opportunities to do plenty interviews with our student athletes and get them as much recognition as possible. Tickets and all sports passes. This year, tickets are still available online if you would like to do that, but we will also offer tickets at the gate. Sub-varsity tickets are $5. Varsity basketball games are $7, and then the West Side varsity basketball game is a $10 ticket for varsity, so please make sure that you're aware of that. If you ever have a problem, don't be afraid of purchasing online tickets. You can always purchase them, and if for some reason something happens, you can transfer them to someone else, or you can be reimbursed for those. It's not that big of a deal for us to do that. So if you're one who wants to, especially if you know there's going to be a pretty good crowd at a Friday night basketball game, go ahead and buy that ticket during the day so that you can get through the line a lot faster. It certainly helps us out. All sports passes, if you purchase those at the beginning of the year with your jacket sponsorship or any of the other Booster Club passes, those are also available to be used for sporting events this winter that you can come to and use your all sports pass. Final two items, the Sports U app and then COVID for me. The Sports U app, on the door exiting, if you're up top, I've posted the sign, and then also if you leave the gym in a little while, I've posted the Sports U apps as well. Your coaches should go over that in a meeting, but if you need to get a code, Sports U is the major form of communication that we'll use for athletics this year. When we inevitably have to cancel games due to threatening road conditions that evening because temperatures are dropping, the first form of communication will be the Sports U app. We will try to get the word out to you as soon as possible that we get it from the district, or, again, sometimes it's out of our hands. It's Greenville County that may make the decision because we are with 4 of the schools from Greenville County. If they cancel the games for that evening, the first form of communication will be the Sports U app. And then I'll get it out on all other forms of social media. But if you do not have the Sports U app, it is our #1 form of communication between the coaches and parents and athletes, and the #1 form of communication between the athletic department and parents and the student athletes. So please make sure that you have the Sports U app. And again, also, I've posted all the codes for all sports. If you know that your child is going to be doing a spring sport, you can go ahead and sign up with that code and follow that sports team as well. We do not have too many COVID reminders, but COVID is still around and something that we do have to deal with this year. We will just remind everyone that masks are required on bus. That's non-negotiable. So masks are required on all bus. If your child has not been in the habit of wearing a mask, They must have it for the bus. I cannot stress that enough, that they've got to have that. And then we will do our best to sit as many athletes as possible, one row at a time. Parents, please encourage your children. There are a few things that will get them dinged still from athletics. We have our coaches get the kids on the bus, we try to take a picture, or we go with the seating chart. It is up to the student athletes to help us keep that policy in place. Because if you're sitting in a seat beside you by yourself, and someone behind you or around you tests positive for COVID, if we've got that distance in between and we're wearing our masks, we don't then have to quarantine the surrounding individuals. And then, of course, it gets into other policies and stuff as well regarding COVID. But the simplest issues are just going to be, if they'll follow the procedures that we give them, that will keep them on the court and on the wrestling mat more likely than not. So, as I mentioned before, I'll be here at the end, or if you need to send me an email about any of the items that I covered, or any follow-up questions with stuff that Coach Cam touches on tonight, my email is thomasbell@anderson5.net, and we will now turn it over to Coach Cam.
And if you have any other issues, call Tommy Bell at extension 85154. No, thank you, Tommy. That was a good job. Golly, COVID, what a year. What a year that was. And it's good. I know last year, and you're taking this gym out, and I can't even remember now, was it 200 people we could let into a game, Coach? I mean, it was nice to manage a game. There were no issues because nobody was in here, okay? But we expect, of course, full, big crowds this year, and it's good to see everybody back. I left off my agenda, but I always want to mention our Athletic Booster Club, and seeing Sandy here remind me who's our treasurer of our Booster Club. They do an incredible job supporting our athletics. That penny's been awesome, and that penny does a lot. That penny doesn't buy uniforms, and that penny doesn't pay for things for our coaches and athletes, and the Booster Club supplements that so well that I very rarely in 8 years have ever said no to a coach that came in and could justify what they needed. Very rarely have I ever had to do that. So I want to thank them. We get a big check from them in November. We get another check in April or late May. And then we have our golf tournament. And they average right at $100,000 a year that they supplement our athletic budget here at T.O. They were doing about half of that 8 years ago. So we want to thank them. Even during COVID, they gave me a $40,000 check last year to use on our student athletes. So Sandy, thank y'all for the Booster Club. I know some of y'all are team reps in the Booster Club. Please get involved. Every penny goes back to our kids and our coaches. So I wanted to thank them. I'm going to go through just a few things here on my checklist. We are still doing drug testing. We randomly test 20 student athletes a month. We actually had a test this morning and came through it okay. Keep in mind, we've been doing that now since, I guess, the year after I came here. I guess it's 7 years now. And keep in mind, that's not a gotcha program. We're not out to catch anybody. What we hope is, if a young person is in a situation Friday night or wherever, and somebody wants to fire up a joint or do something they shouldn't do, that if they care enough about being a part of the athletic program here, which is a privilege, not a right, that they back away and make a good decision. You know what? I ain't getting in this car. Because playing basketball means something to me. And they might call my name Monday. They don't know when the tests are. And I can assure you, it's purely random. We get a list of numbers, and we match numbers up with names. If your student athlete has a positive field test here at Hannah, myself or Tommy will give you a call. We don't enact anything until the results come back from the federal lab justifying or confirming that it is a positive test. At that time, if it's a first offense, they are suspended 25% of the games in their season. Whether it's in season or if they're out of season right now, they play a spring sport, it would go into effect in the spring. And then they are tested every month for a calendar year. That's not random, they're going to be called. Second offense, you pretty much have sealed your fate. So we've had success stories with that, and we've had kids test right out of playing athletics here. So, but I would say overall, when you look at the number of kids we've tested, we have a very small percentage that come back with positive tests, and I hope I would never have to call any of y'all to tell you about that. If you have any questions, certainly call us, but it's been around a good little while. I always like to put a plug in for our strength program. It just keeps getting better and better. You know, the number one thing we had to do when we got here was build a facility. The weight equipment we had here was not adequate 8 years ago. We could barely fit 20 athletes in the room where it was right over here in this hallway. About had a stroke the first time I walked in and saw what was in there. Compared to what we have now in a state-of-the-art facility and an incredible strength staff. This semester, we had right at 350 athletes that lift first to fourth block. And the beauty of the block schedule, they get all their college credits, honor credits, and they can still work that into their schedule. So right at 350, here's the cool thing. 80 females lifted fourth block. 80 females lifted fourth block. Third block, is it third block that's co-ed, coach? It was second block. We have one co-ed class, and then we have football first. And here's the cool thing, and it worked for Glenn. Those of y'all who have girls playing girls basketball, some days they start practice at 2 o'clock. That's because those girls are in fourth block. The South Carolina High School League cannot regulate what you do during the day. So even now with him in season, they can start practice at 2 because those girls are in fourth block, and they just coordinate that with Rob. Days they aren't lifted, they can come to the gym and shoot. We have the coaches with that same planning period, so they can go get their kids out of class. We can do that right now. That's why the huge advantage when I get a head coach in this building, it's a huge advantage. Crenshaw, if they're baseball and not multi-sport and don't play football, we funnel them into third block. Well, Jeremy Price and Daniel, they have planning third block. They're out there hitting 2 days a week. Same thing with softball, fourth block. Volleyball, fourth block. Okay, basketball, second block. There are a lot of days they practice, varsity basketball practices at 10 in the morning. So that's a huge advantage. That gets them home earlier for y'all. But I can tell you the strides we've made. I love to brag on Maddie Bryant. Maddie Bryant's the starting libero at University of Tennessee right now. And we had, I don't know, probably 5 Hannah grads that started in college volleyball this year. But the thing I love that the coach said about Maddie Bryant was when she came in as a freshman, she was light years ahead of anybody in their program, including juniors and seniors, with her lifting technique. Because you're going to lift to the next level. And she was already so far ahead. That's a tribute to what, and she bought into our program here. That's one reason she's playing Division I now. But she did a great job, and I always like to use Maddie as an example, and there are a lot of others. But it is truly incredible what goes on down there. If I've had a really bad week or a bad day during football season on Fridays, go down there about 8:20 and see what the football team does for about 20 minutes in that weight room, and I feel like I can play again when I walk out of there. So it's really cool what's going on, and it's really awesome the instruction they get. Steve Brooks, who works in the other 2 weight classes, retired in Georgia, up here coaching with us. He is absolutely the most positive human being I have ever met in my 61 years. Did he not, Coach? The man just, oh my God, speaks to every kid in the hall every day, knows every kid. But he's that same way in the strength program. That's the kind of coaching we have to working with your kids, which I'm really proud of that, and makes me feel good. You all right? This part, I told the coaches, told them about it when we were still doing these before COVID. I said, guys, I'm really kind of tired of preaching. Y'all want me to continue to talk my little sermon here? And they said, oh, yeah, that's the most important thing you do. You're going to preach it, brother. So they were going to get after me. So some of y'all have heard this sermon, but you're going to hear it again. And who knows, this might be the last time I do it, so maybe I ought to amp it up a little bit. do it in my sleep. As y'all know, and I tell other ADs this at schools, when we're at conferences, national conferences, and they talk about parent conferences, and talking about playing time. I said, well, there's your problem. You're talking about playing time. We will never discuss playing time, okay? Now, you young folks coming in, or you parents that have ninth graders, that might be a bitter pill to swallow, but we're not going to talk about it. The only two people that should talk about it are your student athlete and their head coach. Talk about it. Talk to them. You know, let them learn to fight their own battles. You don't need to fight their battle for them. Definite chain of command. If I have an issue with boys basketball, whether it's C-team, JV, or varsity, or Tommy does, I'm going straight to Keith Erickson. He's the CEO of boys basketball. Just like Glenn's the CEO of girls basketball. Lance Abernathy of wrestling. Those are our contacts, okay? So your student athlete, no matter what level they are, go to the coach at their level, then go talk to the coach. Then if there's an issue, then we can take that another step. Never approach a coach after a practice, or especially after a game or a match. Hey, they invest in your kids. I'll put our coaching staff up against anybody in the United States, in any sport, but especially strong in winter sports as well. I mean, Lance Abernathy's resume speaks for itself. He's like hired Nick Saban. All the state championships he's won. And Glenn and Keith too with their careers. Never approach them. Go home, cool off. Call them the next day. Coach, can I come in and talk, or what's my issue? If it's not playing time, we'll be glad to talk to you. I tell them, if they don't reply to your negative texts, emails, or social media, you can blame me, because I tell them not to hit send. Don't ever reply to anything negative. They're hiding behind a computer screen. If they need to talk, they can call and schedule an appointment, because one-on-one is the only way to handle it, folks. We're not going to answer your 3-page email. If it's anonymous, I'm going to hit delete before I even read it. Yes, I get anonymous emails now, not anonymous notes or letters. Here's a big one that I was told to really emphasize. You know, at a basketball game, if we have 400 people here, 350 of them are the greatest coaches on earth. Okay? There's one coach in here. It's Glenn Elrod and it's Keith Erickson. That's it. And we can't stop you from getting into the game. That's basketball. You're close to the action. Okay? I promise you, they're doing their dead level best and putting incredible effort into coaching you young people. And it's a little harder in basketball, you know, in wrestling. Hey, Lance just throws two of them out there. Whoever pins who's going to be the guy wrestling. No argument. That's easy. Basketball's more subjective. Okay? Please don't coach your kid from the stand. And I didn't have to tell Keith this. Keith told me, he said, you got a problem if I see a parent coaching a kid from the stands and that kid's looking at the parent, I'm putting him on the bench. I said, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's real easy to do in basketball, and it's real easy to see it going on, and I'm always looking for it. And if I see it going on, I'm going to go tell them. Your kid's going to sit on the bench if you're going to coach him. These guys are going to coach him, okay? He or she. Any other issues? And certainly there can be a lot of other issues, hopefully not, outside of the playing time. You certainly call and schedule an appointment. And we'll sit down as professionals and talk about it when everybody's cooled off. I prefer with the chain of command that you deal with the head coach. You know, you can call me. You can call Tom Wilson at the district office, and he's going to tell you to call the coach. Okay? The coaches answer to Tommy and I. We answer to Walter Mayfield. He's our boss in this building. And from there, it goes to the district office. That's the chain of command. Again, have your student athlete talk to their coach. Listen, these coaches love these kids. Are they going to coach them hard? They're going to coach them real hard. Keith Erickson coaches them every second. Every second. He can coach in here. I can get him in my office. I love it. He's getting after it every second. They're going to get coached hard, but they're also going to get hugged and loved on And that's what makes me proud about our program. So if you do have an issue, please come in and schedule an appointment. I have had no trespass people in my career. I've had no trespass, I think, 3 people since I've been here. And that would mean you come out of the stands, you approach a coach, you do something you shouldn't have done, you cross a line, parent come on the field of the football game, getting after a coach on the sideline. Yes, that's happened here. Okay, guess what? You're going to lose your privilege to come back. And that's the last thing we want to do. But remember, it's a privilege to play, and it's a privilege to come watch your kid play. We read that before every game. That's our disclaimer. Okay? So normally we don't have issues with that, and we certainly appreciate y'all's support of our program. Just a couple other reminders. We're going to get out of here early. The pickup zone for your athletes. 2 things that are one of my big things in winter sports is hard, especially if you've got a bus rider. Is let's say JV has a late practice. Maybe they're not going to practice till 5:30, 6 o'clock. We get out of school at 3:40. Okay, and these coaches know one of their worst nightmares is me finding kids not supervised, which rarely happens. Okay, those kids, if they're here, they were required at varsity's practicing early. The JV that are here have to come in and stay in the gym and watch practice. They can't roam the building. Okay. Can't be found in areas they don't need to be in. If they are, they're probably going to lose their privilege to play. Don't have a lot of issues with that, but from a supervision standpoint, we obviously prefer they leave and come back, but some kids can't due to transportation. The pickup zones will be out here on the end of the steps on either side of the Aux gym. We probably prefer most people get picked up back here, but I know wrestling on this side and goes out that back door. That's perfectly fine to pick them up there, okay? But we obviously don't want kids walking to the front of the school to be picked up. I mean, that's common sense. So coaches will work hard on that, and coaches know they're to stay with those kids until they're picked up. If there's some issues there, just communicate with the coaches about pickups. Buses to events. You know, this is the cool thing about Anderson District 5 that Tommy thinks he's died and gone to heaven. Because at Hillcrest in Greenville County, not only did he drive a lot of teams over here driving the bus as AD, but he had to pay to put the gas in the bus. Now, not out of his pocket, but Hillcrest High School's budget had to put gas in the bus. And the buses from Greenville County are late a lot, aren't they, Tommy? All right? Because they don't, like everybody, their coaches drive or guys coming off the route have to drive. I've never had one word said to me in 8 years here about, well, we can't get you a bus. Now, we were trying to get charter buses 2 weeks ago because all the buses we had going on the road with football, couldn't even find one. They don't exist. They're all booked. And we made it work with what we had. But we are blessed that all our bus transportation is taken care of. We probably spend right at $100,000 a year on gas and buses going to athletic events. Now think about that. If I had to pay for that gas, it would eat that whole check that the Booster Club gives us that they used to have to do before Tom Wilson came. Okay? His first year here, he went to a game away and the band wasn't there. Where's the band? The band didn't have any money to put gas in their buses. That was fixed the next week. The band goes everywhere we go. By the way, finished second to state this year. It's incredible what they did. They do a great job. One way that we have reached out to the band, and AJ came to me, if you came to the Malden game, the band worked the concession stand. They got a net percentage of the profit, which is about 35 to 40% that we make. They're also, you're going to see them, the West Side game. Y'all know on December 17th, we play West Side here. They'll be hanging from the rafters. There'll be so many people in here. It's my worst day of the year, just having to supervise all that. They'll have a concession stand up here open along with our concession stand when we have 2 going. That enables the band to be a part of what we're doing and also make a little money for them. So that's just another way of how we try to be good stewards here and everybody work together. Again, in closing, I know the girls' basketball has already met because they practiced early with 4 o'clock. Boys' basketball teams are going to meet in the auxiliary gym, and wrestling, because we currently have 300 wrestlers. I'm joking. We got a lot of wrestlers. They're going to stay. Y'all just stay right here, and Coach Abernathy's going to meet with you for a minute. Hey, we're always here. And I'll say this, this will be the last time I'll be in front of y'all. It's been an incredible honor the last 8 years. Incredible. It's the best thing I ever did to end my career. I wanted one more challenge. I could have stayed in Atlanta until I retired. But I wanted one more challenge. And when I came and met with Superintendent Wilson, I knew in the first 5 minutes, man, I'm in. I'll run through the daggone wall to get this job. Because I'm hearing what's going to happen. And it's been incredible to be a part of it. The facilities have enabled us to not only help your kids, and it's fun spoiling your kids with what we have, but it's attracted incredible coaches. People knock the door down that want to work here now because of our facilities. We'd have never hired Jeff Perry if we hadn't had that field house sitting down there, and he saw how serious we were about doing things the right way. So, hey, it's been an incredible ride. I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to haul me off that lake where I live, or we're not going to leave Anderson. I'll still be around. And I'm going to miss these kids and these coaches, but it's been a great ride. And I'm glad to hand it off, and I know it's in good hands with Tommy Bell. So at this time, you can break away from your meetings, and thank y'all for coming.